tonight on Chat News at 5. A life of service.
A storybook queen who wrote bright pages in the story of the year.
Queen Elizabeth, the longest-serving monarch in British history, has died. And refund or reimbursement. New air passenger protection regulations have gone into effect. Plus, in sports, a high school football team is coming together to support their fallen teammate.
From Medicine Hat, this is the Chat Evening News with Dan Reynish.
This is a look outside Buckingham Palace in London as people continue to gather to lay flowers and show their respect to Queen Elizabeth II. The longest-serving monarch in history died today at the age of 96. She passed away at her summer home, Balmoral Castle in Scotland. The Queen's death will be marked with 10 days of national mourning, culminating in a state funeral for the monarch. People have been gathering outside the gates since this morning when the palace announced the Queen was under medical supervision and doctors were concerned for her health. Good evening and welcome. Thank you for watching tonight. From a young girl who never expected to be queen to the longest-serving monarch in British history. Over a span of 70 years, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II became much loved and well-respected, known for her sense of duty and devotion to a life of service. With a look back, here's Mandy Gaither.
December 1936.
A great country of the world.
A moment that forever changed a young girl's life. After ruling less than a year, King Edward VIII abdicated the throne to his brother.
A new reign began in Britain as the Duke of York was crowned King George VI.
The new king's eldest daughter, then Princess Elizabeth, known as Lilibet to family, became next in line to the throne. 11 years later, marked a marriage.
Princess Elizabeth married Philip, the present Duke of Edinburgh.
The couple was in Kenya on a Commonwealth tour in place of an ill King George when the 25-year-old princess got news that changed the path of her life.
The shadow of death hovered over King George of England as these last pictures were made.
Her father's reign lasted 15 years. Once a princess, suddenly a queen.
The hopes and hearts of England and the Commonwealth went out to a young queen.
In 1953, Queen Elizabeth II was crowned. Her husband, who was later granted the title of His Royal Highness, the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, was the first peer to pay his respects at the coronation, the first one to be broadcasted live on television.
A storybook queen who wrote bright pages in the story of the year.
In the years that followed, during times of great social change, the Queen kept a busy schedule, traveling across the globe more widely than any other monarch before her, meeting with just about every U.S. president since being crowned.
She remembers learning from her parents how important keeping America on side was during the war, and then America came into the war. She remembers that so well. She remembers, you know, the American troops, D-Day, all that. To her, it's a very important part of her growing up.
With no official political power, the Queen wielded the influence of a figurehead. In her private life, things weren't always easy. The year of her 40th anniversary on the throne marred by separation, divorce, and estrangement in her children's marriages, and a fire at Windsor Castle.
It has turned out to be an annus horribilis.
Then, in 1997, the death of the People's Princess. Through a great deal of heartache, the Queen stayed true to her greatest passions, horses and dogs, balanced with the joy of her grandchildren and later a new role of great-grandmother. But even that at times brought hardships. At the beginning of 2020, Buckingham Palace announced that Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, were no longer working members of the royal family. Through it all, Prince Philip was, in the Queen's words, the strength and stay of her reign. He died in 2021 before his 100th birthday after more than 70 years of marriage.
It's just been one of the great royal romances, I think, of history.
From a girl who was third in line to the throne to the longest-serving British monarch, Queen Elizabeth II leaves behind a legacy, a life full of family, faith, and devotion to country. I'm Mandy Gaither reporting.
The Queen's influence has been felt all over the world, including right here in Medicine Hat. Local monarchist Bill Cox has been following the news as it unfolded today. Gates Goran met with Bill to discuss the legacy of the long-standing monarch and what we can expect in the coming days.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks, Bill, for meeting us here today. So we just wanted to talk to you just because there's been some solemn news coming up from the UK that the Queen has passed away. What kind of legacy does the Queen kind of leave now that she's passed?
Well, a legacy of duty, no doubt, and graciousness. She's the only Queen so many of us have ever known. I just had my 70th birthday. And it was I called it a royal garden birthday party because she became queen in February of 1952 and I was born in July. So she's the only queen I've known, or anyone that's 70 or younger. And I think the constancy of her presence in our lives will be sorely missed.
And now there's been so many, tributes and condolences flooding in over social media and news outlets as well. What does that kind of show, the kind of impact that she had on so many people across the world?
Well, her reign was so long, and she was so gracious and duty-bound in her role. She's affected many lives. King Charles said in his remarks that the family were comforted by the very high regard and respect with which Queen Elizabeth was held by everyone, and they will find great comfort in that as they mourn their mother's loss.
So for yourself, kind of what do you first think of when you think of the Queen? Some of your fondest memories of her?
Oh dear, there are too many things for me to consider. I tried to reflect on that this morning after I got your call. Getting my Queen Scout badge was one. Now, I didn't receive it from the Queen, of course. I received it from a judge of the district court down in Lethbridge. But working towards the Queen Scout badge and the things that I was required to do in order to earn that badge, and that certainly helped solidify the place that she holds in my life as a very, very true example of what it means to be a true and faithful servant.
And now kind of what does come next, really, now that the Queen has passed away in the next coming weeks here?
The Queen is dead, long live the King, and we now have King Charles III on the throne. We're going to get bombarded with coverage to the point where even a monarchist like myself will despair that there isn't any other news, but such is life. There will be, of course, a state funeral, which will be attended by world leaders from all across the globe. Those will be the big things that are to come. It's very interesting that she just swore in the latest British Prime Minister at Balmoral Castle only a day or two ago. So, but the thing is, the thing I like about the monarchy, and I think its value, is its continuity. It's always there. And her place is particularly ingrained in us because of the length of her reign. But the continuity of that institution will continue with King Charles, and after him, King William, presumably, hopefully. And I think that gives us that arching sense of time and history that is so often lost in the rush and the busy of everyday life.
Well, that's a fantastic way to put it. I want to thank you so much for your time, Bill, for your insight and just sharing some memories with us today.
Well, I appreciate your call, and we will all mourn her passing, but we will rise again to salute her heir.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks to Bill and thanks to Gates for that interview. British Canadians here in Medicine Hat have also been reacting to the news of the Queen's passing. Rob Wilder, who works at the British Banger Company, says he was initially unaware of the death of the Queen until a customer informed him. Wilder says the news is still shocking to hear even with the Queen's age. He says he acknowledges how polarizing the royal family is, but stresses the importance of them and what the Queen did for the United Kingdom.
Growing up as a kid, sort of, she was always sort of the face of the country, basically. So, you know, to see everything that she's left behind, all that she's done for the country. I mean, I know different people have different viewpoints as to the royal family generally, as to, you know, whether they serve a purpose and etc. But I think it's important to have a royal family, and she was the head of that, and she did an amazing job as that figurehead to, you know, show us as a country as a picture to other countries.
Wilder says it is unfortunate he cannot be in the UK to pay his respects, but he hopes British Canadians will find ways to honour the legacy and memory of the Queen here at home. We will have much more on the life and legacy of Queen Elizabeth II coming up here on Chat News. In the meantime, the flags at City Hall are at half-staff, and there is a book of condolences at City Hall that you can sign that will be forwarded to the royal family. Our first look at weather right now gives us a temperature of 18 degrees. 19 glorious degrees was all we got to today. We're heading back up toward 30 by Sunday with the wind from the west-northwest at 24, and tonight there is a slight chance of some rain. That's the view from City Hall as we take a look at first weather. It's be time for the AccuWeather forecast in just a few minutes here on Chat News at 5. Straight ahead, a Medicine Hat man will walk 100 kilometers worth of trails in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains this weekend in the Kidney March. New air passenger protection regulations went into effect today. The update comes as the Canadian Transport Agency tries to close a loophole that left some passengers unable to secure cash refunds after pandemic-related flight cancellations. So starting today, airlines will be required to issue a full refund for cancellations and delays if passengers are not placed on a new flight within 48 hours, including for reasons outside of the airline's control. Previously, the passenger rights regime only required refunds for flight disruptions that were within the airline's control, which excluded situations ranging from weather to war. As well as a cash refund, the ticket price may also be reimbursed through credit or vouchers and is to be paid in full by the airline within 30 days. The original air passenger protection regulations were established in 2019 before air travel demand collapsed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Redcliffe RCMP are investigating a number of vehicle thefts in the area over the last few days. They were taken from Medicine Hat, Leader, and in the county of 40 Mile. 2 of them were recovered, but 1 is still missing. It's a 2008 blue Ford F-350 taken in the county of 40 Mile on Tuesday. RCMP have identified suspects in these thefts and continue their investigation. They are advising you to make sure you lock your vehicles and take the keys with you to prevent becoming the victim of a vehicle theft. A regular on the trails of our community, one Medicine Hat man will walk 100 kilometers worth of trails in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains this weekend. From September 9th to 11th, Fred Robbins will join close to 400 other marchers in the Kidney March. The marchers will walk around 33 kilometers each day, starting in Millerville and ending in Calgary. The 78-year-old first got the idea to walk from one of his daughters, who first marched in 2012. Fred met some of her patients and was inspired by them. He then found a more personal inspiration in 2019 after one of his nieces passed away. Fred is looking forward to the return of the traditional walk after 2 years of virtual kidney marches that took place during the pandemic.
Most of the inspiration is still remembering the original one where you walked with when you do the actual march, you're walking with people and talking. You're finding out why they are doing it, and you're meeting donors and you're meeting recipients, and it's just, you become very close to them. They become family, and they say that you become part of the Kennedy March family, and you do. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Fred says he starts training for this weekend in March or April every year and walks at least 5 kilometers a day and sometimes as much as 25. Find out more about Fred's story, the Kidney March, and how you can help online at chatnewstoday.ca. Time for us to take a break here on Chat News at 5. More stories to come after these messages. Coming up, how to tell the difference between cold, flu, and COVID-19. Queen Elizabeth II, Britain's longest reigning monarch, has died at the age of 96. Elizabeth spent more than 7 decades on the throne as the UK rebuilt from war, lost an empire, transformed its economy, and both entered and left the European Union. She was a constant presence, the only monarch most Britons have ever known, and she guided the institution of the monarchy through choppy waters. The impact of her loss will be huge and unpredictable. Coming up in about 15 minutes here on Chat News at 5, we'll have a look at how the next few days are expected to unfold in the United Kingdom. As we head into fall and winter, health officials continue to urge those eligible to get vaccinated alongside getting a flu shot. Mandy Gaither has more on what's expected this flu season, and if you get sick, how to tell the difference between a cold, flu, and COVID-19.
Is it a cold, the flu, a sinus infection, or COVID-19? Since symptoms of all of these illnesses are similar, it may be hard to tell the difference.
Probably flu will be pretty severe this year. COVID cases will probably go up.
Dr. Barbara Bauer with Ohio State's Wexner Medical Center says anyone who gets sick should pay close attention to all of their symptoms. She says if you have a dry cough, it's likely caused by COVID-19, as cold and sinus infections are tied to nasal congestion, leading to coughs that tend to be more mucousy. A fever might signal the flu. Bauer says a fever can accompany COVID, but not quite as often and rarely with a cold or sinus infection. If you have shortness of breath, it's most likely COVID-19. This symptom only rarely is associated with a cold, flu, or sinus infection. Also, pay attention to how long it took you to feel sick. Bauer says sinus infections and colds typically continue to get worse over a couple of days. Flu affects a person immediately, while the timing of COVID-19 symptoms can vary based on vaccine status and immunity from a prior infection. Taking an at-home COVID test can help.
Just to know whether you were positive or not, and then schedule an appointment with your doctor to see if you're eligible for, certain treatments.
Bauer says the best way to protect yourself from severe illness from COVID and the flu is to get vaccinated. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Chat Weather, brought to you by Design Flooring Center, creating inspired living spaces from the ground up.
Chat Weather, powered by AccuWeather.
When I popped my head outside this afternoon to see what it felt like, sure, it was windy, but it was nice and chilly. Cold even. Our graphics guy John Cooper said it was too cold today at 19 degrees, but I disagree with him. I told him it's going to be 31 again by Sunday. John likes to golf, so he can get back out and golf at 31, and we can enjoy 19 degrees and an overnight low. I'm so excited I can't even say it. An overnight low near 6 degrees. Oh, it's going to be so chilly. I might even have my blankets on. My gosh. 18 degrees out there with a mix of sun and cloud. It says mostly cloudy, but there's a mix of sun and cloud. The wind coming at us from the northwest up to 40 kilometers an hour. It's sustained around 30 with wind gusts up to 40. That's what it'll be tomorrow as well from the northwest with wind gusts up to 40 kilometers an hour. And tomorrow, that number you're seeing on the screen there, 18, That's likely the high we get to for the entire day tomorrow. But then the heat is coming back. It's coming back for now. Bow Island 17 right now. Brooks is also 18 at 16 in Drumheller. And in Lethbridge, Calgary is cloudy and 13. In Edmonton, 16 degrees with a mix of sun and cloud. Meanwhile, over in Saskatchewan, 17 in Leader, Maple Creek. Regina's 19, Swift Current cloudy and 16, and Saskatoon mainly sunny and 16 degrees. So very comfortable temperatures, just a couple of degrees below seasonal average, but that means the radar has been doing all sorts of things. Now, there's a 30% chance of rain tonight. There was a 60% chance of rain this afternoon. It looks like maybe a little bit of rain fell south of Medicine Hat, just a little bit north of the US-Canada border, but nothing came up to Medicine Hat. Maybe some will tonight, and there's a chance that we see some rain into tomorrow morning as well, clearing around noon, and then we'll see a mix of sun and cloud tomorrow. But the Futurecast, woo! The Futurecast is finally showing some action, and look at it spreading in and around Medicine Hat for the early part of next week, maybe even on the weekend. So know that we're going to have 13 hours of sunshine Saturday and Sunday, down to 7 hours on Monday, and only 3 hours of sunshine on Tuesday. Still 26 degrees though, so that's not a bad Tuesday at all. Your Friday, as I mentioned, starting off cloudy, getting up to 16, 18 degrees in Brooks, 17 degrees in Leader. Look at that, 7 at 6 a.m. Oh, that's going to be gorgeous. 15 at noon. In Maple Creek, 16 degrees, partly cloudy and 7 degrees. And in Medicine Hat, cloudy to start the day, then a mix of sun and cloud, then lots of sunshine, only 18 degrees tomorrow. So this is likely not something you're going to be doing today or tomorrow, but maybe by Sunday when it's 30, 31 degrees, you might be out paddling beside the shores of Strathcona Island Park again. Brenda sent this picture in a couple weeks ago. I've been holding on to it, knowing the weather was going to cool off, just to inspire you to get back out there again. Brenda sent it in to weatherpics@chatnewstoday.ca. Brenda, thank you very much for doing that. The weather picture brought to us by Prestige Windows and Doors. Thanks to them, thanks to Brenda, thanks to you for watching Chat News at 5, where we will have more news for you coming up. Still to come, in the next few days, the Queen will be honored by people around the globe. For Thursday, September 8th, I'm Dan Reynish. This is Chat News at 5. The modern Elizabethan era is over. Queen Elizabeth II, the longest reigning monarch in history, has died. As the news spread today, a rainbow appeared over Buckingham Palace as people gathered in London to sing God Save the Queen. Britain is now in a period of national mourning.
Queen Elizabeth II was the rock on which modern Britain was built. Our country has grown and flourished under her reign. Britain is the great country it is today because of her.
British Prime Minister Liz Truss and millions across the world are sharing the sadness and are sharing their memories of her. That includes memories from Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
She was thoughtful, wise, curious, helpful, funny, and so much more.
American President Joe Biden also offered his condolences, saying the Queen led always with grace, an unwavering commitment to duty, and the incomparable power of her example. And Time magazine has released a new cover commemorating Queen Elizabeth II. It will be available on newsstands on Monday and digitally tomorrow. All her children and her grandson, Prince William, flew to Scotland to be by her side. The crown now passes to her son, who will be known as King Charles III. As the world mourns the death of Queen Elizabeth II, a series of plans are being turned into action. In the coming days, the Queen will be honored by people around the globe, and nowhere will those tributes be larger or more steeped in tradition than in the United Kingdom. Krista Gomansing outlines how the next few days will unfold.
grand and tasteful. Those are the words to describe Operation London Bridge. The plans to honor the Queen were established long ago, and they will be fulfilled with skillful precision. Buckingham Palace will be the first location of significance. It's here inside the throne room where Her Majesty's coffin will first rest. It is a dramatic space often used for balls, investitures, and photographs.
It's going to be very difficult to think of the royal family without the Queen.
Phil Dampier spent years covering the Queen as a royal correspondent.
It's going to be very difficult to sing God Save the King instead of God Save the Queen. It's going to be very difficult to look at your stamps without her head on it. It is going to be really weird from now on.
The transition of the throne to King Charles will be immediate. He will undergo some official duties, including a tour of the United Kingdom. But the focus of those in the UK and around the world will be on memorializing Queen Elizabeth. Unlike Prince Philip's funeral service during the pandemic, the public will be involved.
I think the former United Nations General Secretary, Ban Ki-moon, he once referred to her as an anchor for our age, and I think that's what she was. She was an anchor, and something that people could turn to as a stable force when other things were going wrong.
That stability over many decades is one of the reasons that millions are expected to make their way to Westminster Hall. The Queen's coffin will be lying in state in the middle of the room on a raised platform, guarded around the clock. The hall in the Houses of Parliament has been used to honor sovereigns and leaders going back to 1898. It will provide people with an intimate place to say goodbye to a woman who pledged her devotion to the people of the Commonwealth back on her 21st birthday.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service.
That speech was just one that stood out for Dickie Arbiter, a former royal spokesperson.
I will remember her as somebody who devoted herself to duty. If you look at the week that Diana died and the lead up to the funeral, it's the first time in her life that the Queen put family above duty. It's always been duty.
Her dedication to the crown will be highlighted in services around the world, but England is where Commonwealth leaders, special guests, and royal watchers will come together to mourn. 10 days after her passing, the Queen's coffin will be driven through the streets of London. There will be bands and military guards. People of all ages will line the route. The funeral service will be held at Westminster Abbey, the location where her reign began. On June 2nd, 1953, it was the site of Queen Elizabeth's coronation. 17 British monarchs are buried at Westminster Abbey, but it's not where the Queen will be laid to rest.
She's taken to Windsor, which is where her parents are buried in the crypt at St George's Chapel.
Reunited with Prince Philip in the famous chapel on the grounds of Windsor Castle, the final resting place for a historic monarch. Crystal Gamanson, Global News, London.
A First Nations leader says there are no words to emphasize what his community is going through. Chief Wally Burns joined other Indigenous leaders at a wake on the James Smith Cree Nation today. The gathering comes one day after the suspect in deadly stabbing rampage died in police custody shortly after his arrest last night. The attacks left 10 people dead and 18 injured. Burns said these attacks of violence need to stop, and he's calling on the government for 3 things: tribal policing, addictions awareness, and treatment centers. He says the families affected by the tragedy will need all the resources to help them heal. An influential environmental watchdog group is adding 14 types of fish and seafood, including lobster from Maine, to a list consumers should avoid. But Maine fishermen are very angry with the Seafood Watch advocacy group, arguing that they harvest lobster responsibly. Brad Rogers looks at the controversy.
Now is the next part, the tail.
From the claws to the tail, lobster is what brings many tourists to Maine.
We just traveled to Maine to eat lobster.
But now the lobster industry says it's being blacklisted. The watchdog group Seafood Watch is telling people to avoid eating lobster because it claims lobster gear is killing endangered right whales.
No one wants to know that their appetite for seafood is driving a species to extinction.
Seafood Watch says the lobster industry must change their fishing practices to get off this list. But lobster industry advocates say they're already complying with every regulation to protect right whales.
There's an incredibly high compliance with regulations around these protective measures. So it's very disappointing.
Seafood Watch and government agencies say vertical lines and ropes are a leading cause of injury and death for the North Atlantic right whale. But Maine lobstermen who've been switching over to breakaway lines to protect the right whale say that's simply not true.
A right whale's death or serious injury has never been attributed to Maine lobster gear.
Right whale conservationists say the population has shrunk 30% in the past decade to where there are now fewer than 340 right whales. But Maine lobstermen argue most right whales are killed from ship strikes in Canadian shipping lanes.
We're unfairly being targeted when the main problem is, again, ship strikes.
Longtime lobsterman Richard Black, who's now using breakaway lines as required, says Seafood Watch is going after the wrong people.
They're entirely misguided. Well-meaning people who have not a clue. The likelihood of a right whale going up into my gear is non-existent, but yet I still have to comply with all of these crazy mandates.
As for tourists and seafood restaurants, they say blacklisting lobster is absurd.
Sounds a little bit extreme to me, and I think they've already addressed the issues that were concerning. You know, if you want to complain about something, that's fine. Just don't get in the way of me eating what I want to eat. I don't think it's bothering the tourists a bit because they're buying fish and lobsters every day.
When we come back here on Chat News at 5, I will have sports, and Mike LaCour will give us a look at what's up in the hat this weekend. That and more when we come back. On the way in sports, there's a new twist as the chuck wagon season winds down in the Calgary area this weekend.
Chat Sports, brought to you by the Landscape Depot. Quality landscape supplies. Get creative in your outdoor living space with the Landscape Depot.
CFL is great, and college football is always fun. Fear the fork. But the NFL returns tonight. The NFL is back, baby. And for nearly 7 months, Sean McVay has told the Los Angeles Rams their Super Bowl championship guarantees them nothing in this new season except a banner. The Rams will unveil their banner tonight at SoFi Stadium before they get another reminder of just how little their championship on that same field last winter will mean this fall. The NFL chose Josh Allen and the powerhouse My Buffalo Bills as the Rams' opponent in their season opener. The Bills are preseason favorites to win the Super Bowl, finally. And after falling short in the AFC divisional round against the Kansas City Chiefs last January, it's about time for the Bills. Game time at SoFi Stadium in LA. Buffalo, Los Angeles is 6:20. Meanwhile, a Minnesota high school football team is coming together to support their teammate who's recovering from a devastating injury that might leave him paralyzed. Jonah Kaplan brings us the rest of this story.
There is no playbook for this, certainly not for teenagers or even for their parents or coaches.
It's real and it's fresh and it's raw and it's hard.
Chad Nyberg is the activities director at Jefferson High School. Ethan Glenn was there last week when classes began, and he took the field for what should have been the first game of a budding high school career. Glenn, though, hurt as he made a tackle playing defense. He lay motionless on the field, and he might be paralyzed from the shoulders down.
This is all just freak accident stuff, and there's nothing that any one person did or was cause of anything. You know, some groups are doing some cards and things like that. They'll go to him. Football team's doing some gummy bracelets that they're gonna wear and support. I think the 9th grade team's getting some T-shirts made. And
Ethan, or E to his teammates, was also captain of his hockey team. His squad Wednesday night making these signs and posters to raise his spirits. And as they hope to give him strength, coaches want the youngsters to know being strong means acknowledging their own grief. Ethan's got a long road ahead, and so do they.
It's good to be vulnerable, right? And on your terms too. Like when you feel it and stuff like that, you need to talk and you need to process.
The freshman football team meeting and practicing for the first time on Tuesday since the injury. They're suiting up and hitting the gridiron for their first game on Thursday, and that's against St. Louis Park. They're ready and excited because they know who and what they're playing for. Jonah Kaplan, WCCO 4 News.
There's a new twist as the chuck wagon season winds down in the Calgary area this weekend. As Gail Tucker shows us, the event features a kind of racing we don't see very often, along with a chance to support women's health.
Getting them all ready to roll. Okay. Heading out to hit the track. Wanda Hansen and her team. The kind of racing that goes back a long way.
Roman times.
Some things haven't changed much since then.
Speed, adrenaline, and excitement.
And now they do it chuck wagon style.
Do a figure 8 around 2 barrels and then race out around the track.
Pretty enough, eh?
And there's quite a twist facing the chucks and chariots when they race here at Millerville this weekend.
Into the truck for a second and see how it works.
Volunteers setting up a new version of the turnback rope.
The turnback rope goes across the track. It stops the wagon horses from going the wrong way down the track.
This one's part of a breast cancer fundraiser they'll be running.
Having the bra set up on the rope just helps a lot bring people thinking about it.
As a mother of a young daughter, it's quite important that they are aware of it now at a young age, because if you catch it early enough, you can fight it and be a survivor.
It just helps support women, all women.
The women will be going head-to-head with the men at these races.
I think it's absolutely awesome. I think more female drivers we can get, the better.
And the most fun of all?
It's always been fun racing against the guys. Easy, babe.
Gil Tucker, Global News.
As you likely heard in news today, Queen Elizabeth II died today, and it must be noted she was a big sports fan, specifically horse racing. That was Queen Elizabeth II's big sporting love. She first rode a horse at the age of 3 and would inherit the breeding and racing stock of her father, King George VI, when he ascended to the throne in 1952. She became one of the biggest faces of British and global horse racing and had approximately 2,000 winners as a racehorse owner. Her jockeys always wore purple, gold, and scarlet racing silks. Plus, the Queen was also present at some of the most famous occasions in British sporting history, like this one where her horse won the race, and she was there when England won the Men's Soccer World Cup in 1966. May she rest in peace. We'll be right back with a recap of tonight's top news stories. When we return, after a 1-year weight loss journey, a 9-year-old lab has a new leash on life. You are watching Chat News at 5. Here's a recap of tonight's top stories. Queen Elizabeth II, Britain's longest reigning monarch, has died at the age of 96. Elizabeth spent more than 7 decades on the throne as the UK rebuilt from war, lost an empire, transformed its economy, and both entered and left the European Union. The Queen's death will be marked with 10 days of national mourning, culminating in a state funeral. Essential government functions will continue, but much of the routine business of politics will be put on pause. New Prime Minister Liz Truss says the country was devastated by the death of the monarch, calling her, quote, the rock on which modern Britain was built. New air passenger protection regulations went into effect today. The update comes as the Canadian Transport Agency tries to close a loophole that left some passengers unable to secure cash refunds after pandemic-related flight cancellations. Starting today, airlines will be required to issue a full refund for cancellations and delays if passengers are not placed on a new flight within 48 hours, including for reasons outside the airline's control. As well as a cash refund, the ticket price may also be reimbursed through credit or vouchers, and it is to be paid in full by the airline within 30 days. Now, if you would like more on these and other stories, just visit chatnewstoday.ca. All right, Mike LaCour is back right now to let us know what's up in the hat this weekend. Michael, take it away.
Greetings, Dan. Thank you very much. There's a few things happening around Medicine Hat over the weekend and beyond, starting with the 36th annual Santa Claus Fund Toy Run, which goes ahead on Saturday. It starts with a pancake breakfast at 9 a.m. at the Irvin Hotel, with the riders leaving at 11:30 a.m. The parade of bikes will make their way through town, ending at the Stampede grounds. Toys and donations will be collected there on site, And there will be music, refreshments, and a whole bunch more. The Little Britches Rodeo is Saturday and Sunday at the Dunmore Equestrian Center. Watch these young competitors take part in events that include team roping, barrel racing, steer riding, pole bending, mutton busting, goat tying, and breakaway roping. This is a free event to attend, and there will be food trucks and 50-50. The annual Step and Stride event is back on Sunday down at Kincooley Park. Make a difference and help to raise funds for programming and services with the Parkinson Association of Alberta. Registration is at 1 p.m. and the walk begins at 2. There will be a barbecue, treats, and beverages for everyone after the walk. Join the Root Cellar Food and Wellness Hub for the grand opening and 30th anniversary celebration. The open house is tomorrow from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at their Maple Avenue location, with speeches starting at 3:30 and a ribbon-cutting ceremony taking place at 4 p.m. The Medicine Hat Scottish Country Dancers is looking for enthusiastic individuals interested in learning Scottish country dancing. There's an opportunity for 6 weeks of free lessons for beginners starting on Wednesday. Classes will be in the evening starting at 7 p.m. at St. John's Presbyterian Church right here on 2nd. Teens to seniors are welcome to attend. Get more information by calling 403-527-4708. If you have an event you'd like us to feature on What's Up, please email us at chatnews@patersonmedia.com and we'll try to get it into the next one. That's it for me. Dan, back to you.
Thanks, Mike. Good stuff once again. All right, our final story for you tonight is about a dog. And after a 1-year weight loss journey, a 9-year-old lab has a new leash on life. It's all because of his foster mom who refused to give up on him. Shelley Steves has their story for us.
Goodness, your beautiful boy.
When dog trainer April Saunier first locked eyes with this big green-eyed yellow lab named Walter,
I was quite shocked. He was the largest dog in terms of being overweight for his breed that I've ever seen.
At 9 years old, Walter was struggling to move, weighing in at 154 pounds at his heaviest.
He could barely make it across the street to go for a walk.
Surrendered to Fulfilling Hearts rescue by his owner, who could no longer care for him.
He was a well-loved dog. He was just too loved.
April knew that Walter now needed a different kind of TLC. So just over a year ago, she took him in as a foster mom and set out one step at a time to help old Walter shed nearly half of his body weight.
So we spent the next few weeks just giving him slow amounts of exercise.
Those weeks turned into months, and with every step, the bond between April and Walter grew stronger. When word spread about Walter's need to purge some pounds, volunteer donors in the community rallied behind him.
We were very lucky. People helped us purchase this food as it was quite expensive.
Never once did he complain, determined maybe to one day be strong enough to make it to his special spot.
He loves the beach. His first time that we brought him down there, he ran down and laid right in the water, so it was quite cute.
1 year later, take a look at this beach body now, down more than 60 pounds in total.
Walter, you're looking pretty good, buddy.
Walter has a new spring in his step. His health has improved. He just seems like an all-around happier pup.
I think he's a whole different dog. He doesn't act the same at all as he used to, so his personality has changed drastically since he's lost all this weight.
He sure seems pretty pleased with his now forever home.
Are you handsome? Good boy, Walter. We couldn't let him go.
He lost the weight and gained a family. Shelley Steves, Global News, Notre Dame.
Attaboy, Walter. All right, let's take a look at the 7-day forecast now. I mentioned tomorrow will be just as chilly as today, only 19. But look, by Sunday, 31 degrees. The overnight lows tonight, 5. By Sunday, back up to 11. And then things start to balance themselves out. After the heat comes up, 29, 26, 25, 24. So we're going to be back to seasonal average, or at least closer to it next week, after being below seasonal average today and tomorrow. Will be a little bit above seasonal average on Saturday, then way above it on Sunday at 31 degrees. The bottom line is lots of sunshine still to come, but tonight there's a 30% chance of rain tonight. So let's cross our fingers for that. Thank you very much for watching Chat News at 5 tonight. I'm Dan Reynish, back tomorrow at noon and 5 for you. Hopefully you can join us then. Take care.